Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin. You all please take your seats. Candidates will come to the front. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for coming tonight, I think we have a good turnout. Just a few reminders. If you haven't yet registered to vote, please do so at vote.utah.gov. We need a valid driver's license or Utah ID. No ballots should be going out this week to the county, so we will have to do now. You'll also be receiving, if you're a registered voter, the information pamphlet that discusses progress on our candidates. So please look at that as well this week. It's going to be a great night. We've got some great questions that I've looked through. Looks like our candidates are ready. So I'm going to introduce to you Eric Franson from the Cache Valley Media Group. He's going to be moderating tonight. We've done this quite a few times, so he's got some good experience. Candidates are going to be given 1 to 2 minutes with maybe a possible 30-second rebuttal of some of the hotter topics and hotter issues that we have. Afterwards, please feel free to again visit the candidates personally to know them for a few minutes before you leave tonight. Without further ado, Eric Franson.
All right, thanks everybody. First of all, thanks for being here. This is being streamed, from what I understand, and archived. So if you want to go back and watch it again or share it with others who couldn't make it, that's possible. So as Heather explained, what we'll do is we will give each of you 2 minutes for an opening statement, introduction, including Kathleen Alder, and just go through the line. And then after that, we'll start to cycle through some of these questions that have been filled out. And what we'll do is on each question, we'll give you 1 minute to answer. And we'll take turns who gets the question first. And then we'll just alternate who gets the next question first, who gets the last word on that. But then if you want a rebuttal, we'll make that available. We'll say we'll have 30 seconds for rebuttal. I do have some signs that I'm going to be flashing at you. Just a 30-second warning, a 10-second warning, and your time's up. So we'll keep track of that so nobody goes over, and we'll try to do our best to get this done by 8 o'clock, if not sooner. And then as a reminder, folks can, when we're done, the candidates go back to your tables, folks can gather and ask additional questions. So I think we're ready. So let's begin. Kathleen Alder, an opening statement and introduction.
It's working. Welcome, everyone. I like to stand up when I talk. Actually, I like to walk around when I talk. My name is Kathleen Alder. How many of you have read the newsletter? Okay, good. We put that newsletter out so that we can give you information, because all of you know that information is power. And so the more information that you have, the better you can make decisions. So we're happy that you came tonight and that you have some questions that you want to ask us. Just briefly, where I come from, I have a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in public administration. I have done a lot of things in my career that I think uniquely qualify me for this job. The last job that I held, I was the president of a computer consulting firm in Salt Lake. I did that for 5 years. It was very interesting. I got to close the company down because there were so many off-the-shelf kind of products that we didn't need to do as much customization. The other thing is people had this much money and they wanted this much program. So we decided not to do that anymore. So I've done a variety of things. I've spent a lot of time in education. I did a lot of customized training for businesses. I was able to go into businesses, figure out what kinds of things that they needed their employees to be trained on. And I would find someone to build the curriculum and then deliver that curriculum. Thousands and thousands of people that were working who were underemployed and needed to have additional skills. I'm currently the chair of the Planning Commission for Providence. I've been doing that for the last couple of years, learned a lot. I still have a lot to learn. I'd love to be your mayor and have you vote. I am unopposed, which is unfortunate. I would rather have someone running against. I think that keeps you on your A game. Oh, really? 3 seconds. Whoa. Okay. I want you to know that I asked myself, what do I want for Providence? I want for us to be a community. I want us to work together. I want us to have positive things going on. Really? Oh my gosh. Okay, let me just end by saying, I want to know what I can do to help you. Thank you.
I'll stand up too, so you don't fall alone. I'm Jeff Carlos Nebeker. I've never done this before. I'm new. I moved here to the Valley about 10 years ago. Yeah. Okay. And I've taught elementary school, middle school. I'm at Green Canyon High School now teaching art. And I just believe strongly in we the people. And if I get into this position, one of my main goals would be to have your voice heard in this city. And I have a plan for that. What else? I am a husband, have been for 21 years, father of 9 children. And I just believe strongly in individual freedom. And what do you as citizens want your city to look like? So I want your voices to be heard. And I'm done for now.
Kathleen can have more time because we're all being short. My name is Christina Eck. I moved to Providence in 2003. And once I moved to Providence, I actually was appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission, which I loved. And I cannot remember how long I served there. But I learned a lot, went through a lot of training. I've raised my family mostly here. Part of the reason I decided to get into serving is because I grew up in a small town, and my mother is here tonight. I should make her stand. She trained me that, we were always cleaning the streets in our town. We were planting trees. Whenever there was any community event, my mom was always in charge. And she brought us along and helped us out. So I felt a desire to serve. I love Providence. I have served for the past 4 years. And frankly, the first 2 years were, it's a big learning curve. I would say for the first 2 years, I was just full on just learning. We've done a lot in the last 4 years. One of my main goals when I was elected 4 years ago was to hire a city manager, which we've done, and that's been a huge benefit to our city. I wasn't going to run for re-election, and something just told me in my heart that I needed to try. There's more things I want to accomplish. Several things. And then when I found out that Kathleen was running for mayor, I knew that I could definitely do another 4 years. I am a local real estate broker and have a flexible work schedule. My children are grown, other than the fact that I babysit my grandchildren a lot. I do have enough time to do the job, and I look forward to it, and I appreciate your vote. I have had a few people call me. My number is in the newsletter, and text me, and you're welcome to do so, and I've appreciated those calls.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Miller. I've lived in Providence since 2004. I moved here for my first job out of grad school at Utah State University. When I first lived in Providence, I thought I got a really rough and tumble introduction to local politics. And it seemed like we had a lot of well-meaning but part-time folks doing the best they could. And I sort of told myself that when I was in a position career-wise to serve the local community, I really wanted to do that. I wanted to add my voice to the voices that were shaping the city. And I feel pretty good about where we are as a city. As Kathleen was just mentioning, I think the implementation of a city manager position was a great idea. And it gives everyone a way to grow responsibly and equitably. There's transparency there. There's a person who is implementing decisions of the city council and the mayor. And I think that's how local government should work. What else about me? My partner Kate is here with me. In the back there, she makes some cookies that are on the table. Please help yourself to those. We've raised 3 kids in Cache Valley and Providence, a college-age son, one who's about to graduate high school. We have a 9-year-old who attends school here at Providence Elementary. So that's me.
Thanks. I think I'll stand too. My name is Janelle Seeley, and I've been serving on the council for the last 2 years. And like Christina kind of mentioned, it's a steep learning curve. And I've learned a lot. I've read a lot. And I visited with a lot of you. Some of you called me, some of you have emailed me. I really do feel like that is the biggest thing that we need from our citizens is to engage with their elected officials, like Jeff implied that we can't represent you if you don't talk to us. And so I do appreciate it when people call me with their concerns. Sometimes it might feel like it's intimidating to talk to a council member, but we're just friends and neighbors. We're all friends and neighbors, and we're all trying to build a great community. Some of the things that we've been able to do while I've been on the council is we have adopted a general plan that hadn't been updated for quite some time. We've done several master plans to try and to not be reactive as we solve problems in the city, but to be proactive and to plan carefully and to budget money well so that we can accomplish all of the great things that we have in mind for Providence. I feel like we're kind of at a pivot point in Providence, a way to honor all of the heritage that we have, but to also kind of reinvigorate the community and to get people engaged and to get people participating and volunteering and creating the community that we want to have. I'm a mother of 6 children. I studied electrical engineering at Utah State. I really like ideas. I like problem solving and analyzing things, and I feel like it's been a great experience to serve on the city council. I welcome the opportunity to continue in that service.
Okay, thank you. Just remember the microphone is your friend. Don't be afraid of getting the mic close to your face. All right, so we're going to ask some questions. And each of you will be given 1 minute to respond. We'll go down the line. And if you want to have another 30 seconds to finish a thought or to rebut something that was said, that'll be given to you as well. And we'll start with Kathleen. And then we'll just alternate who gets the first question after that. So our first question has to do with housing. What is your vision of Cache Valley housing 25 years from now? 1 minute.
I see that Cache Valley is growing. They have been growing. They will continue to grow. I see that a lot of people talk about this is how it used to be. I talked with a gentleman and he was bemoaning the fact that his stream was no longer clear because when he was a boy. And I said, well, young man, it's been 80 years since you were a young boy. And there have been a lot of things that have changed. I want to make sure that in Providence, we are not looking back so much at what used to be, that we are looking forward. And that we're looking to plan and make sure that we're using our land judiciously. People say, why don't they go out and build out in the valley? Well, you know what? We don't have infrastructure out there. By the time we put in more infrastructure, it's going to be a lot more expensive. So what we use here in Providence needs to be done judiciously and inclusive. And I'd love to have lots of different people that can add to our population.
My vision of housing in Cache Valley 25 years from now. It seems like it would go off of the planning and zoning of each city, and what their individual city plan is, and the codes they have for planning and zoning in each individual city. If you had higher density, it seemed like the higher density would be closer to commercial zoning or roads that are busier. And then the further you get away from that commercial zoning or the busy roads, into the single family home areas may not be as high density. And maybe working from Logan as a center point of Cache Valley, and moving out from there. It's kind of hard to predict the future, but having a plan is probably best. Yes, talking to people.
So housing is my business. There are several of you in the room that I've sold homes to. Cache Valley is growing and it's not going to stop. And a lot of the growth really is coming from within. We want a place for our kids to live. We want a place for our grandchildren to live. We just need to be smart about it. Follow our general plans and be smart and work with the other communities in regards to traffic and things like that. But we are working with, we coordinate with the county and Logan City. We coordinate with a lot of those. So anyway, growth is coming. We can't stop it. I hear a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of comment that is maybe disturbing to me, that says, I've had people recently say to me, people that live in townhomes, we want those people in Logan. Okay, but I want you to ask yourselves or think about it. Have you ever lived in a townhome, or have you ever rented? All 4 of our children have started in a townhome and then moved up to single family homes. So anyway, it's about being smart and following a general plan, and that's why we have it.
I mistakenly called Christina Kathleen earlier, so apologize to everyone for that. I agree with what's been said. I think we need to plan carefully. We need to follow a plan. My vision for housing in Providence over 25 years would see a great diversity of housing options, and many of them affordable. I'm seeing now, as a professor at Utah State University, students are having trouble finding places to live, affording places to live. Developers are falling behind in putting affordable housing together for those students, and that causes a real bind. And I would like to not see that happen.
When I envision housing in Cache Valley 25 years from now, I'm sure a lot of our open spaces will be full of housing. And so I think that what's most important is careful planning. Planning is the key, and we do that through our planning commission. We do that through our code. And when I think of housing, I also started in a townhome back as a newlywed, not too far from here, and I was a student at Utah State. But I feel like the developments that we approve need to serve the needs of the residents that live there. If we intend them to be starter homes, they need to have appropriate green space and amenities that support the people who are in a starter home. If they need, I feel like all of the amenities and the code that we establish needs to set the framework for what we would want if we were starting 25 years from now. I have 6 kids and I think about that a lot.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you. Now you have time for 30-second rebuttal if you'd like it, starting with Kathleen.
Your
choice.
I would
If you want 30 more seconds, that's up to you.
I'll take 30 more seconds. As I would echo what everyone else has said, and that is, we do have a plan and we're following it. We have codes. If any of you identify codes that you think are not correct, come in and help us. Come in and talk to us about it. Gather some information and let's make whatever changes need to be made. We love to have people come and give us information, and the only way that we're going to know is if you're going to come and talk to us. So how can we help?
We talked a lot about planning and having a plan for certain areas and zones. And so just again, talking to the people in that area, I do believe in respecting those who live in an area and respecting their wishes. So it's not about what do I want as a city council member. It's these people live here. What's their vision of their neighborhood? Not a developer.
I think one thing that we need to be cognizant of is that we have to be proactive about how we want to grow, because if we're not, the state will decide for us. And we are a state that's driven by a lot of power on the Wasatch Front. And a lot of it's difficult to model things across the state that's rural and urban, suburban and city-wise, but we have to be as a community proactive about what we want, or it will be decided for us.
I am not done.
Okay.
It's true. People don't realize that it will be mandated for us, and they will just come in and tell us, and they've threatened it. So that's why we're trying to be pretty diverse and trying to open up more housing types, which is not popular with a lot of people in Providence, but the big picture, if the state comes in and mandates that we have to have certain housing types, I would much rather be in charge of that as a city than let the state do it for us.
All right, our next question. And we'll start with Jeff. If you are elected, how engaged do you plan to be? Will you show up when necessary or volunteer more needed time?
That's a great question. Thank you. I will be very involved. I will show up to all of my meetings. And talking of being involved, I've got a plan in here of how I'd love to connect with all the citizens of Providence and just really understand what the people of Providence want for their city. And that's probably my #1 goal, is to connect with the people of Providence, find out how do you want your city to look and feel, and that's all.
What's the question again?
Sure. Sorry, I gotta back up the mic. If you are elected, how engaged do you plan to be? Will you just show up when necessary or volunteer more needed time?
So on the city council, we get our packets now way in advance, which is great. Thank you to the staff, where we really have to dig in and learn and gather as much information as possible so that we can come to city council meetings prepared. I'm happy to volunteer and help where needed. I've been very consistent of attending my meetings. I think it just depends on the mayor and city staff and, you know, who they think they want to appoint to different committees and things like that. But that's part of our job, is to be 100% all in.
Yeah, I agree. I would be engaged beyond attending meetings. I've spoken already about how I think we need to be planning for a responsible and equitable future. And I think that takes more than just showing up once a month. And I would be beyond, I would go beyond the bare minimum. In terms of planning, in terms of checking code, writing and revising code, these are things that I'm kind of a nerd about. So I would enjoy that process quite a lot, as well as talking with you all about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what you want to see different.
If I was reelected, I would definitely continue to be actively involved in volunteering for committees, trying to use the talents that I have and the interests that I have to benefit the city. I think all of us have different backgrounds. Some of the things that I've participated in that are outside of a regular council meeting is, you know, analyzing data, doing request for proposal analysis for master plans, participating in city events, trying to get volunteers to participate in things. I like using digital platforms, so we've encouraged to try to engage on social media with residents, and just really, I think it's important that you're willing to take the time to talk to people. I mean, my kids will tell you all the time that I'm on the phone all the time about city business, and so I think you just have to be available whenever the residents choose to engage with you.
Right now I serve on the planning commission, and I go to several meetings that have to do with that. I attend all of the city events that we have. Saturday night, I was with the youth dance. We were chaperones. That was interesting. It's like children are old, and so it's been a long time since I've done anything like that. The mayor job is supposedly a part-time position. I'm certainly not doing it for the pay, because it doesn't pay very much, but you have my assurance that I will be fully engaged. During the legislature, I will spend probably most days down in the legislature, making sure that our interests from a city perspective is being taken care of. And I want you to know that we're going to have some city celebrations, and I have a meeting at my house tomorrow night where we're going to be talking about that. So I will be very involved with the county, the state, the city, and all things. So please call me.
Does anybody want any additional time on that question? Okay, we'll move on to the next. So we'll start with Christina. What is your opinion on planned unit developments in Providence?
Thanks for that question. I think there's a place for them. The thing that you need to know about planned unit developments is Janelle and I were having a conversation the other day about them and what we thought about them, and I've thought a lot about it in the last week. Thing that you get with them, now it's not a place ever, there shouldn't be planned unit developments everywhere, but they can be very well done. We have some in Providence that are very well done and working well. A few things you need to know: the city doesn't maintain the roads in a planned unit development. The roads are very narrow in a planned unit development, which Janelle and I were talking about. But what that does is provide for a lot of open space, for trails, and for a community, a sense of community. An HOA takes care of those things. There's generally a main road that would go through it, that is wider, that the city maintains, but the roads that go around people's homes are smaller. The other thing is people know what they're getting into when they're buying in a planned unit development. So, and a lot of people like to live in them. They don't have to live in them. They can choose not to, so.
I just had a panic attack. I don't know what a planned unit development is. So that would be something that I would be looking into and investigating in my first days in office. But it sounds like from what I gather, just hearing Christina talk about it, planned communities. I like the idea of open spaces. I'm an avid mountain biker. So I want to keep trails open as much as I can. So those sound like good ideas to me.
I think that planned unit developments need to have a really carefully guided code. Because I disagree with Christina in that regard, that not everybody who buys into one knows exactly what they're getting into. That I've lived in one. I know you have to be proactive about knowing what's covered, what's not covered, what's provided for, what's not. But I think that some things we can guide, like the width of the roads. We can guide the green space percentages. I think that you can have an HOA that maintains and does yard work and snow removal and all of those things. But the way that it's structured and organized can have more guidance.
Planned unit developments are a different animal. And I think they're something that it adds variety to the kind of housing that we have here. It isn't for the whole city and it isn't for everyone. But I do agree that people who get into planned unit developments should be informed. In fact, when you buy into anything, when you think about buying a home, it's the biggest purchase that you ever make in your whole life. And you spend 10 minutes walking through. We all would be better off if we would take a few minutes to check everything out and make sure that we understand what it is that we're getting. Planned unit developments can be the right thing for a certain group of people, and they could be the wrong thing for another group. So check it out, make sure you have enough information, and make a wise, informed decision.
I also don't know too much about planned unit developments. I would have to look into that. But from what I've heard, I think what Janelle said about be careful about the code and know what you're getting into seems like a good idea. So save that time.
Thank you. Would any one of you like additional time on this topic?
The only other thing I have to say is one of the reasons I like them, and again, it's not for everywhere in Providence, but it's okay to have them here and there. Is the landscaping for everybody's yards is done. There's where I live, there's several half-acre lots that have been built on. Maybe in the last 3 to 4 years, they still haven't got their landscaping in. So it's nice to have the landscaping done. So anyway, it's not for everywhere, but it's okay in a few places.
Anyone else want additional time? Okay. I'm
I
gonna-
want to preview the next question. Make sure I know. Yeah.
We'll preview it all together. How's that?
Yeah, okay.
Is that fair enough? Okay. City council meetings used to be twice a month. Now they're once a month. What are your thoughts about that? Can you take care of all the business in the city with only one meeting in a month?
I think I would be open to meeting as long as the meeting time was spent productively and on issues that were relevant to the meeting's agenda. I don't think there's a right answer for how long, and how often we should meet. But I think a couple of things that are going for Providence City right now are the city administrators and staff and the city manager. Those people are putting in full-time jobs on top of those of us who would be volunteering and attending the meetings. So I'm open to meeting and working as long as it takes to get the job done.
We started with 2 meetings a month when I started, and as a council, we decided to go to 1 meeting a month with the stipulation that if there was too much business to cover, that we would schedule another meeting. And this is something we discuss often as a council because we're trying to be respectful of people's time, not only our time, the residents' time, but also the staff's time. It takes a lot of time to put together the packets, and we need them to actually execute the things that we ask them to do instead of continually making packets. So I think it's beneficial for us to minimize meetings and execute what we try to do, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from our residents. I think exactly the opposite, that we want you to come to the meetings, we want you to engage with us, and we're willing to put in the time when we need to put in more time, but I don't think it always needs to be that.
The city council used to meet twice a month, and it was a horrendous job. I want all of you to know that you have a city staff that is committed to you as citizens, and they're doing a fantastic job. We have a great city manager, Ryan Snow, and he's pulled everything together, and we're as a city, we're much more organized about the things that we do. It's not set in stone that there only can be 1 meeting. The flexibility is built in, so that if there is additional business that needs to be taken care of, it can be done at another meeting. But I think as citizens, you want things to be as efficient as possible. And let me assure you that it is efficient. Sometimes the meetings are kind of long, but it's okay because they're taking care of the business of the city and making sure that it's running smoothly. So be assured that we have a great staff and things are going very well.
Seems to me that if citizens and people of Providence have a reason to meet, then we can meet as often as they'd like and discuss whatever they'd like to discuss. If there's something important on the agenda that people want to talk about, we can have a meeting and talk about it. I guess I've had no experience. I don't know what it's like to go to a monthly city council meeting once or twice a month, but if the people of Providence have a concern and they would like to come and get involved and be a part of the meeting, then we should have a meeting. And if there are meetings that you have monthly that aren't so important, then I guess they're all important. I just think meeting as often as people would like is a good idea.
It's about being efficient. I know for a fact that since we've been having 1 meeting a month, we've actually accomplished an enormous amount for the city. Staff is really overwhelmed by 2 meetings a month. That doesn't mean we don't want to hear from the citizens, and the mayor's been really great about always asking for city input. If you're to come to our meetings, you're able to speak. We also, during budget times, which is like July, June, springtime, there'll be times we have 2 meetings a month, but we're able to accomplish everything we need to. It's about being prepared when we get our packets. It's about studying hard and being prepared and ready. We also might want to consider, we tried, I know the mayor has, and I don't remember what he called them, an open house or a Saturday morning where you can come and meet and discuss. But we found that citizens weren't attending. We were planning these things and no one was coming. The other thing you can always do is email us.
Do anybody want any additional time on that question? Okay, there's a question here, but there's some background. It is important to have lower income housing options where individuals and families can enjoy the benefits of homeownership. But in Providence, where multi-unit housing has been built, most, if not all, have no restrictions on these units becoming rental properties. This actually makes it harder, not easier, for families to benefit from home ownership. Do you see this as a problem, and what would you do about it?
I think there's a lot of facets to consider when you look at low-income housing or affordable housing. By definition in the state, it's based on area median income. And so that's a different piece of the question, I think. As far as rental restrictions, some things you can control and some things you can't. I do think having a lot of units purchased by investors does limit the housing stock for first-time home buyers. However, it's a property right and it's not something that can be controlled by the city. There are HOAs and CCNRs that put a percentage restriction on how many units can be rented, but we don't have things like that in our code that restrict the number of rentals that are afforded.
Contrary to popular opinion, we do not control the prices of the house and the units that are available. That's controlled by the market. We want affordable housing. We want attainable housing for the people that want to live here in Providence, but we don't control that. There are federal programs that are available for developers, and they can designate a certain number of units that would be sold for less than the other units are sold because they're subsidized by the government. And so we can look into those. We can encourage the developers to do that. But as a city, we do not control who comes to us to build. We don't invite the builders to come in and build certain things. Once they come, we hold their feet to the fire with the codes that we have. But as we move forward with housing, we want all of you to be involved. We want you to come in and talk to us, give us your opinion, and help us.
We definitely don't control the market, and it's hard to decide what's affordable and what's not affordable. And I guess if affordable housing is required, there are places to provide affordable housing and places that affordable housing maybe should not go. I'm trying to remember your full question. It's a long one. Something about rent. I think people do have the right to rent property if it's their property. But affordable housing, I think there's a place for it. There's zoning maybe for affordable housing, and there are other places that other things may be developed that aren't so affordable. But there are places in a city such as Providence where affordable housing can be provided so that people can live in Providence.
So frankly, I don't think Providence has any affordable housing right now, except for some apartments at Deer Creek Apartments. I think that is affordable homes to purchase in Providence. It's not affordable. So that is apartments. And a lot of the apartments that are coming and a lot of the apartments that we have are still not affordable. They're very expensive. They're very high end. I spoke with neighborhood nonprofit because I would love for them to come to Providence. They do some projects in Hiram and Smithfield and Nimbley, and they told me that the land in Providence is too expensive. They'll never be able to make it here in Providence. So it's something we got to consider. It's something that I live all day long because that's my business.
Right now, there are only 4 homes, other than what's for sale in the Vineyard in Providence, under $1 million.
Ouch. Yes, I feel this. I get the constant text, emails from out-of-towners and people, investors living in Salt Lake, who say, I own several properties in your neighborhood, and if you ever want to sell, sell to me. That goes against my values as offering affordable, equitable housing options. It sounds like there's not a lot that the city council can do to determine who owns what and who rents out what. But in principle, I would discourage in any way that I could owning multiple units and renting out as we are looking to make housing affordable.
Thank you. Any of you want additional time on this question?
I don't know if this is a rebuttal, but it's additional time. Okay. One of the things that can be done is we can evaluate our hospitality tax for short-term rentals to kind of discourage townhomes being purchased and used for that reason. As far as affordable housing goes, like I said earlier, that's dictated by the state. It's a percentage of your area median income, and that requires subsidies. And thankfully, we have, a city manager, we have staff on hand that can help us with those type of grant opportunities, but it's not something that we as a city can do independent on our own.
I would definitely be willing to, and we really should hit up the hospitality tax so that some of those Airbnbs that are being used in those townhomes. So that would discourage that. And I would also be very willing to work with developers to make it so that there's in Cache Valley right now, there are a lot of townhomes that in their CC&Rs only require a percentage, will only allow a percentage to be rented out. So that's something that I guess we can look at. Just a reminder that the way you can have less expensive housing is to put more housing on less land. It's just a fact of life. And so if we want houses to be more affordable, they need to be a higher density than a house on a half-acre lot. So it's up to you as citizens. Is that what you want? Do you want to be inclusive and have more people be able to live in Providence? Then it needs to be smaller lots.
I have some land in my backyard. I was kind of thinking maybe a 3-story apartment would fit back there. Be a little sarcastic, but I think there are places for high density and there are places where the citizens of Providence don't want high density. So maybe in those places closer to commercial building, you can put some 3-4-story apartments in there that may end up being affordable. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay, our next question. How are you feeling about Prop 1?
I was being naughty, I was talking. Tell me the question again.
How do you feel about Prop 1?
I feel like with Prop 1, people don't really understand what it is.
If you speak up, just over here.
I feel like on Proposition 1, people don't really understand what it is. Proposition 1 is about the development that is over to the north of this. It's not about all of Providence. It's not about not building any more high-density housing in Providence. It's about the one development. I think there's been a lot of misinformation about it. Gather your facts, gather them carefully, and make sure that the facts that you are gathering are true. I was saddened by the violent way people treated the signs. I was saddened that our citizens in Providence would stoop to that kind of actions. Please be careful when those kinds of things come up. Let's be civil. Let's have a civil dialogue.
I think the people of Providence do know what Prop 1 is, so I'm not going to tell you that you don't understand, that there are experts out there who understand things that you don't understand. So you've seen the development that's already taken place. If you've driven through there, I felt a little claustrophobic. I live close to that area, and if I had to say, I don't like the high density in my neighborhood. And I think what gets put into my neighborhood can eventually be put in any neighborhood where there's a little bit extra land. I know there's a few spots down by Macy's or across the street from Macy's that would be great for apartments. And high density, close to the main road, but up in the single family neighborhood, I'm not in support of it. And I think the people of Providence do know what Proposition 1 is. You know what you're looking into.
So I was on the city council when we unanimously annexed in and rezoned Prop 1. So I will be voting for it. I believed in it then and I believe in it now. I think it's actually a perfect spot in Providence for this zone. There is plenty ways for traffic to get in and out. The developer actually saved you as citizens a lot of money by putting in the crossing and doing a lot of other things so that we could get that main road through there, which I know a lot of people use. In fact, I use it a lot more than I realized. Everyone has the opportunity to vote, and that's the great thing. So I'm super happy about that. I'm not very happy about some of the information that has been dropped off on my friends and neighbors' doorsteps that is not accurate. And so just make sure that you're informed with the whole truth and vote how you feel, and we'll see, what the citizens say, then we'll move forward. And I'm sure at the end of the day, regardless, it'll be a great place.
I'm voting to support Prop 1.
I personally feel that not everyone in Providence understands Proposition 1. And I know that because I've spent hours knocking doors in the city and talking to people. And because it appears to be an extremely polarized issue, people who don't know where to get information, they don't know if it's biased one way or another, don't know where to get information. And so I've spent a lot of time talking to people. I've actually spent a lot of time working on a blog post on my campaign website about Proposition 1 that is neutral information. What happens if you vote for it? What happens if you vote against it? Affects two parcels of property in the north end of town, and the implications that are involved. So I do think that knowledge is power, and I think that people who might be unsure about who to ask for information need a safe, neutral place to ask information so that they can make informed decisions and do what they think is best for Providence. And I'm welcome. I want to support whatever the vote turns out and comes to be.
Does anybody want additional time on this topic? Okay, we'll move on. What is something that you think Providence could improve on, and something that you would be willing to make your top priority?
So I mentioned this before, the voice of we the people. enough people in Providence and their voice be heard on how they want their city to turn out 25 years from now. And kind of like, split the city into some areas and have more representatives from smaller areas of the city. And have those representatives check in with the 20, 30, 40 people in their area, kind of get their voice. And then, I guess, kind of like a caucus system, but have a representative from each area come to these city council meetings once a month. These 22 representatives have 22 areas. And I'd really like the voice of the people to determine what the future of Providence looks like. If the people of Providence want their city to look a certain way, high density, let it be. But I'd like the voice of the people to be heard.
Right now, I'm passionate about our recreation programs. Right now, we are acquiring also a lot of new park space. And I spent a lot of hours working on the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Part of the reason I'm running again is because I didn't just want to leave that alone. I'm passionate about these things, and I'm passionate about making our recreation programs more diverse so that we offer more things to the community. Providence has been a big baseball community, and I'm a baseball family. My nephews play, my son plays. I love baseball, but we need to diversify. We need a lot more programs, and so that's the first thing that I will really focus on. Along with, there are several ordinances that I would like to take a look at and be involved in, including I would like to be very involved in a cemetery master plan.
I'm excited about the idea of developing recreational areas, especially trails in Providence. So that's something that I would want to put my name and efforts into, creating open spaces for all of us to use. The other thing that I just wanted to plug, I'm super excited about the infrastructure that's going in for our fiber network. And I think more plans like that need to be implemented. Plans that give consumers and citizens choices and options rather than being beholden to the almighty Comcast or Cox Cable Network if you don't live in Utah. So yeah, recreation and infrastructure is where I want to put my time.
If I am reelected, I feel like I really want to work on code revision. I feel like there are a lot of things in there that are not reflective of what I hear from residents. And I think we can continue to revise that and update it. I think we've spent a lot of time in the last 2 years getting the city in a position where we are proactive about the decisions we're making. And the next step is cleaning up the code. It really is cleaning up the code. And I really want to work on community involvement, community engagement. I think our city celebrations and the things that draw our citizens together have kind of ebbed and flowed, and maybe part of that's because of the state of our world and things have been weird for a long time, but we need to re-engage there. There's nothing better than watching the citizens of Providence come together. You know, after so many months of isolation, to see everyone come out from the windstorm, that was incredible and heartwarming. And I want to see more service opportunities and community opportunities like that that bring the community out together.
My turn. Something that I would like to see us do better is have some city celebrations. As a matter of fact, tomorrow night I have a meeting to start on our city celebration, but I want all of you to be involved. It's not just going to be done with a couple of people. I want to have the celebrations be citizen-generated, citizen-led, and city-supported, not city-led. And so be prepared, because we're going to come and ask you. We want you to come and work with us and play with us so that we are together as a community, because that makes us stronger. We know each other. One of these days, we might all be camping together. Who knows what the world is going to be like. And I don't know about you, but I want to know my neighbors. And I want to, if I'm going to camp with them, I want to know who they are. So please be prepared to be involved, because I'm really passionate about getting people involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want any more additional time on this topic?
Just wanted to say that I believe in we the people running these activities. And I don't believe in growing government any bigger than it needs to be. The people need to manage the activities they'd like to have.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We kind of touched on this, but again, kind of goes to a broader issue. How will you help young families find a way to be able to live affordably in Providence? The wage and housing cost discrepancy is very concerning.
How will I help young families find affordable housing in Providence? Like we've said, there's not a lot of affordable housing out there, and Providence seems to be a very expensive place to live. The apartments. I don't know much about affordable housing with apartments, but it seems like they can be built in a certain area where they may be affordable. And if it's unaffordable, maybe to live in Providence, they could move just outside of Providence or Logan, 30, 40 minutes. These are a little bit more affordable in the country, but not much. Things weren't affordable for me where I grew up, and I ended up in Lewiston. And things were affordable out there. Eventually, I ended up here.
I have 3 married daughters. And when they first got married, I had to force them to buy a townhome. They didn't want to. It was hard. They did it. Then they were able to buy a second home. And now they're on their 3rd home. And they're young. These are in their early 20s. But if they don't start somewhere, they can't start in a house. We can't afford that. I believe even in the Vineyard right now, the only home for sale is over $500,000. So we have affordability, if you call it that, at $269 in the Vineyard, which was a condo, which is a great stepping stone, right? But they can't jump into a home. Also, none of my children can live in Providence right now, even in the homes that they're building. They're all building new homes with builders right now. They can't live in Providence. It's too expensive. They're in Hiram and in West Smithfield. So the answer to the question is, how can we help young people get into housing? Is we've got to start in a townhome.
That sounds good to me. Yeah, giving people places to start, and encouraging those homeowners in any way that we can to be diverse, not necessarily be exactly like us. They're going to have trajectories and ideas for growth that we haven't thought of. And so I think giving, to the extent that we're able to, giving starter properties, encouraging starter properties, that sounds like good. Those sound like good ideas to me.
When I think about how to help young families find affordable housing, I think one of the major components for that is economic development. That is one of the reasons why I feel like fiber is such a benefit to the residents of our city, because it provides opportunities for work and employment that don't require businesses to build buildings and structures and things here in the valley, take up that open space that we all enjoy, but it gives people an opportunity to telecommute to other places. Another thing that I think that is pretty incredible about telecommuting, I think about my children. My oldest is almost 17 and my youngest is 6, but I want my daughters to have the opportunity, or my sons, to stay and be able to be with their kids. And telecommuting really provides that opportunity, that they can increase their income levels, but they can also maintain the home life that they want as they raise their families.
We have people that come to us and they say, stop building all these high density houses, but we want more businesses. Guess what businesses look at when they come in? They want rooftops. They want people that can come and frequent their business and spend the money there. So it's kind of a dichotomy. How do we handle that? But having people be able to work in their homes, as Janelle said, with the fiber that we're bringing in, that's going to be great. Nobody knows what retail is anymore. If there's anybody in here that knows that, please raise your hand and let us know. As we go out to get businesses to come into Providence, because we do have places that they can come in. They want to know how many people are here that can spend money in their business. So it's important for us to get a balance of housing and businesses.
Thank you. Anybody would like additional time on this topic? Okay, we'll go to our next question. This is directed to the two who are not currently on the council. I think it can apply to all of you that are running. How have you educated yourselves on the issues of Providence? And have you attended city council meetings or planning and zoning meetings? Do you feel like you know the issues and what the job entails? So maybe for this one, we'll just direct it to Jeff and Ryan, if that's okay.
I went to a city council meeting maybe once or twice, just to kind of get a feel for how the meetings flow. It was nice. A few citizens came in and expressed their concerns, and the city council listened to them. I looked into Proposition 1 a little bit. I know housing is not affordable. I love my 9 children to just move in Providence next to me when they get older, but I'm sure they'll go off somewhere and find a place, maybe a tent. No, I haven't been reading through code books, city code books. But if issues arise like Proposition 1, I look into it, I read through it. I read the city newsletter often. That's one of our favorite letters we get. And we make sure we're aware of everything that's being mandated or.
I've spent the last few months looking through the city code. Tyler has done our city recorder, county recorder. City recorder has done a good job of including Jeff and I on the agendas that are posted. We don't get the full packet, I think, but we do get to see what the city council is going to be talking about at the next Wednesday meeting. And I've looked at those issues, I've studied the issues. The one I can think of most recently was actual code revisions for nuisance property in the city of Providence. And one of the things I liked about that is that the city planners seem to be doing a very good job of defining what these issues are and talking about them in productive ways. So I've looked at city council meetings and I'm sure there's a ton that I don't know. That's what John was telling me earlier today, Mayor Drew. And from what I'm witnessing here, I know I have to stop. I have a lot of learning to do. I don't know everything.
And to balance this out, this is for the incumbents. The next question. What have you accomplished so far while in office?
It's hard to remember everything. We have worked on an enormous amount of master plans, probably 4 or 5. And those are very, very detailed and take a ton of time. One of my biggest accomplishments, and like I said, one of the things that I pushed very, very hard for, and I know that you're all very grateful for, is getting a city manager. Even that process was difficult and very time consuming. We had so many meetings about it. Our city manager has actually saved the city an enormous amount of money. So I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of some of the extra things that I've been on. We had a great city celebration planned, and I was in charge of it for 2020. We had to pull the plug at the very last minute. But I think wrapping up those master plans is a big thing. The roads, I fought like crazy to get First East fixed. How many of you are grateful for that? Yay. Not just that, we have a lot more to work on in regards to roads, and I'm passionate about that.
Some of the things that I've been asked to help with as part of my council assignments on city council is a library and school district liaison. And I've also worked with the planning commission and the 2 irrigation water companies that work in our city, Spring Creek Water Company and Blacksmith Fork Irrigation Company. And I think, and I've done a lot of work on the master plans, I worked with David Zook, our county executive, to secure funding for the library so that we continue to have a library facility within the bounds of Providence City. That was in question for a while, so I'm happy that that's continuing forward. And I honestly feel like the work I've done with the water companies has probably been one of the most rewarding things that I've done while I worked at the city. It was hotly debated and highly contentious, and I feel like we're all friends and we have come a long way from where we started.
And fiber. I'm very proud that we're able to bring fiber to our community. Janelle Seeley spent a ridiculous amount of time helping our city get fiber. So I credit her and her husband, but it's going to be amazing for our city.
Janelle, did you want any additional thing? Okay. Our next question. What is the biggest problem Providence faces not related to zoning, and what can be done about it? We'll start with Ryan.
So on my website, moeller4pcc.org, moeller4providencecitycouncil.org, I've documented very briefly the haziness and air quality that we're seeing in the Bear River Mountains. I I took a picture in 2017 of the Jardine juniper tree, 1,500-year-old tree in Logan Canyon. Great picture. Last summer, I took the same ride, and the air is filled with smoke from the wildfires that plague the western United States. So I think one of the biggest issues facing Providence and any small town, any city in Utah is climate change.
Besides zoning, the biggest obstacle that I think Providence faces is community engagement. It is difficult to get people engaged. A lot of people have ideas and things that they're passionate about, but getting people to work together, I think, is a big challenge. I think one of the things that we've been really actively exploring as a public information officer for the city, someone that is actively helping to educate and inform and communicate and connect the residents with each other. And when we build that network, and I've actually thought about something similar to what Jeff suggested about caucuses and kind of neighborhood organizations like that, we can accomplish anything when we all come together as a community. We really can. We can accomplish anything.
I do feel like one of our biggest problems is the community involvement and people being engaged in what we're doing. We only get people to the planning commission and to the city council when they have an issue, they have a problem, and they'll come and great, we still want you to come, but come once in a while and listen to what we're talking about. The agendas are always posted. You can go to our website, you can find the agendas. The attachments are there. You can look at everything. Don't just come when there's a problem. Come when there's something positive to talk about. Come and engage with us, with the mayor, with the city council. Give us your feedback. And you know what? We like positive feedback too, not just the negative stuff. Come and talk to us and be a part of our city. And when we have events, please come and support it. We work really hard to do that. I'm the block party person, self-appointed, but we have a block party every single year. We didn't last year and the year before because of COVID, but this last year we did. So let's get together as a community and let's talk to one another.
So I've only been in Providence for 2 years, but it's a lovely place and it looks great. I'd love more of that sense of community, but not to come from the city, not come to our events, but just neighbors and families getting together, holding their own events without the city planning them or putting them in a newsletter. So, of course, I guess a city council would support you with your events, but I love we the people, citizens of Providence, to create these events on their own without our involvement. We aren't the ones who grow things and create things and invite you to our events, but you, the people, get together, unify, be friends, and have events. Maybe you can send a letter to the city council office inviting Janelle to your event.
This is obviously a theme, but definitely a sense of community. And one of the worst parts of my job is often opening my email because there are a lot of really mean emails that come our way. And I wish that people would also get involved. If we're upset about something, let us listen to you. Let's see what we can do to fix it. But then turn around and spend some time serving in the community, because like I said, I'm passionate about Providence. I'm passionate about Providence Canyon. We live in the most beautiful place. There's a lot of things in the city that are still issues that we're working on. We have a lot of employee turnover, which we need to continue to work on. We need code enforcement. We are short-staffed for employees. Again, roads and parks and recreation. So all of those things are part of the reason that I'm running.
Jeff, if you plan a party, invite me, I'll come.
Any of you want any additional time on that topic? Okay. Generally, lead off with this next question. Another Proposition 1 question. Why has Prop 1 changed from affordable to attainable?
Well, I mean, it's market driven is one thing. Another issue is that, you know, we try to bring in developments for affordable housing, different housing types, but as a council, we don't control the price. The developer sets the price, and so it's no longer affordable. And so it's now become attainable because it's considered quantity housing stock. That's the difference to me.
The term affordable housing is a federal program. And so we're not talking about housing that's in a federal program. We're talking about housing that's built by a developer that is for sale. So that's the difference between attainable housing and affordable housing. Just because affordable housing is a term used for government subsidies.
Do you have a dictionary? Affordable, attainable. Sorry, I really don't have an answer on this one. The price of the housing is determined by the developer, and affordable, attainable to the people. That's up to them individually if it's affordable, attainable. It's a great trick question, though. I'm not sure what it is, but.
Affordable housing, if you actually take the median income and then you do the math and figure out what they can afford, and it's literally something like $700 a month rent. That's what affordable housing in Cache Valley is. So that is not a purchased home. Vineyard, in my opinion, has never been affordable housing, and I don't think I've ever used that term. And I don't, if someone has used that term for it, they just didn't know the definition, you know. You need to also know that developers can build for less money in developments that the homes are closer together because their infrastructure is cheaper. Also, we get a lot of training from the Utah League of Cities and Towns. Twice a year, they beat it into our heads that we need to help developers by not dragging things on. You know, approving their subdivisions if that's what your city wants to do. But something like Prop 1 has delayed, so the costs will be more. It's a long story. It's something I'd love to discuss with you if you want to, because I gotta stop saying.
Like Jeff, I feel that I'm not qualified to answer that question at this time. What's the difference between affordable and attainable? Okay.
Anybody want additional time on this topic? Very good, we'll move on. And Kathleen will lead out on this question. Can you explain the fiber rollout plan?
I'm going to leave this to Janelle. I was not on the council when it came forward, and I certainly do not want to give you wrong information. So the one, really the best one to explain it would be Janelle. Husband, can we bring in our own experts?
You want me to explain the 5-step rollout plan?
Maybe for those who were not directly involved to discuss.
How much time do I have?
30 seconds, no, you've got a full minute. Maybe we'll do this because it seems to be more directed to somebody who's more directly involved. But your opinion about the fiber rollout throughout the city as it's being instituted, if you can't speak directly on its rollout plan.
Just as a citizen, sounds like it's another utility that will have water or gas, and fiber, and whether you wanted it or not, here it is. And I hear that it's great. If you're on your electronic devices a lot, which I'm not, but if you are, then it's a good thing.
The fiber process was incredibly detailed. It started even before Janelle got on 2 years ago. We spent a ton of money, time and effort researching fiber. This is what I'll tell you is that I knew that from the research that we did that I wanted fiber and that it would benefit Providence City. There was so many details that an engineer was excellent at figuring out for us that I don't know all of those. I know enough to know that I felt good about voting for it and I'm excited for it, but I left it up to the experts. So.
Do either of you know the city council person who wrote the letter to the editor about the fiber network rollout, Carrie? I would encourage you all to look at Carrie's response to the fiber rollout in, I think it was in the Tribune, right? Or the Herald's Road.
She also has 4 videos out, if you go to our website, that are phenomenal.
But what I understand from reading that letter to the editor is that the fiber network gives everybody an opportunity to become a competitor for services, internet services, and it establishes a fast baseline for those internet services. Right now, if you were to want to get faster internet access, you'd have to go through Comcast. And Comcast is not interested in upgrading your bandwidth at all because they don't have to. There's no competition. So what the fiber rollout gives us is competition for other internet service providers to give us lower prices and better service.
The fiber rollout, how to explain how this will work. So initially we did kind of an interest, I guess, that people signed up for an interest so that we knew where the highest interest was, and that's where we began. But we have a central hub that is actually almost completely installed down by the city offices, and it will be taken to every home. It's called Fiber to the Home FTTP. Sorry, get my acronyms correct. I could go on and on about the benefits of fiber, but it will be completed, a complete build out and roll out of the fiber will be installed in 3 years or less, based on the contracts that we established with our contractor, with Strata Networks. My husband has been brought up a few times. He was independently recruited to be on the fiber advisory committee, not because I'm on the council, but because he's brilliant and he had a lot of smart things to add and great perspective. So I'm grateful that he was willing to put in that time as well. My kids, this is just a family joke because we talked about fiber so much, refer to it as the F word. Oh no, they're talking about the F word again, not that they really know what a real F word is, but they think fiber is it. So.
Any of you want any additional time on that? Janelle, do you need time on that? Answer afterwards, perhaps. Because we're to our last question before we go to closing statements. Obviously, Providence is growing. What is your vision for how we grow?
Again, I would like to talk to the people of Providence and ask them how they would like their city to grow. I do truly believe it's their city and they should have a say in the vision of their city. And kind of seems like it grows from the commercial area out. But I guess we're talking about development or housing. It should grow that way. But socially, it should grow with more unity between neighbors.
Not just housing growth, but we have a great opportunity for some commercial growth, which is very important to the city. And we have a commercial highway district that I'm committed to keeping that way. Along with, you know, our job is to listen to you at public hearings, and we do. We listen to the planning and zoning. They have a job to do, and we take their input into our decisions. I haven't always voted with the planning and zoning because there are times when I felt like they didn't have all the information, and following our master plan. So just being smart about planning, but I would also like to really encourage some good commercial growth for Providence.
One of the things that Christina said when she ran a couple of years ago for city council was say no to the status quo. And I feel like that's the status quo, and running against the status quo was what I really wanted to get involved in local politics to do. I think our growth needs to be responsible in that it takes care of our needs now, but it also allows future generations to take care of their own needs. So we can't just be thinking about what's great for now, but what are we going to enable future generations that don't look and think like us? What do we need to put in place so that they can have a Providence city as well?
I'm going to have you repeat the question.
Obviously, Providence is growing. What is your vision for how we grow?
Well, I've said this several times, but I think code is a very big piece of that. That is the framework that we as a city put forth to all the people who want to come into our city. It's the code. And when we have good, clear code that expresses what we want, which requires citizen involvement, then we end up with what we're looking for. But I think that's part of the job of being in municipal government, is that we see things, they come in and we don't always get it exactly how we thought it was going to be, and that we can pivot and we can adjust and we can make those changes so that it continues to grow the way that we want it to. But that requires us to be engaged and involved in the process, residents giving us feedback, and constantly doing that feedback cycle where we get information and we respond to it and we make the adjustments as they're needed.
As we look at how we're going to grow in the future, we do have a plan. We have a master plan. We have a master plan for parks. We have a master plan for roads. We have a master plan for sewer. We have master plans for all things. As citizens, please log on to our website. They're right there for everyone to read. If there are things you see in those plans that you think ought to be different based on the information that you have, please come and tell us. Also, we have, in the Planning Commission, we have a public hearing almost every meeting that we have. That public hearing gives you an opportunity to give us your feedback. Please come and give us your feedback. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure that we are making decisions that are wise for the city and wise, well, other way around, wise for you and wise for the city. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you think about our city. Please be involved.
Any of you want any additional time on that question?
Just that oftentimes when I'm reading this letter, I see the word experts thrown out there. And don't get me wrong, I believe in experts because they are experts on how to do certain things. But I also believe that people of Providence are experts too, how they want their city to be. Once they've decided how they want it to be, we can pull in those other experts to help us reach that vision. One thing I left out on the previous question about how did I prepare for this, I went and talked to the city manager for probably an hour and a half, and I picked his brain, and he was so good to answer all my questions about Providence City.
Is it possible?
Thank you.
Sir, is it possible to do a couple more questions or are we out of time?
No, we can fit another question in or two. We're supposed to be done by 8. Okay. Okay, so Christina, you'll get up on this. What other street are you going to use besides Gateway to get into town? It's a problem already.
Well, I don't think Gateway is a problem already.
It is if you live there.
We'll let
We'll let them answer the question.
There's a lot of roads getting into Providence, so I don't really understand the question. I mean, we'll use what we have. There's Gateway, there's First North, there's Third South, which needs a little bit more improvement. Fifth South is going to be coming through. I personally use 10th South going up through Millville to get to my home. So I'm not sure.
I think I use Gateway primarily to get into town. It's on my commute to university. Really grateful that that street is the same as what is it the same as? Second West, I guess, in Logan. Is that Gateway? Second East, First East, First East. Yeah, I like that goes all the way through. And I travel it daily.
I think I would echo something similar to what Christina said. I use the road I need depending on where I need to go. So I live on Center Street, so I use Center Street a lot. I use 3rd East. I use First North. I use 2nd West quite a bit to go out towards the high school. I use 10th South. I use several different roads within the city, so it just kind of depends where I'm trying to go.
We also have a transportation master plan you're welcome to look at, and a CMPO road that I believe is coming through over by the high school. It'll be helpful, but I don't think Gateway is a problem in my opinion, and I do travel a lot.
Gateway is not on my way to really go anywhere. I use Gateway to go look at projects and look at things that are going on in the city. I've never seen it full. And I think if you've ever lived any place that really had traffic, you would know that we don't really have traffic in Providence. Our roads are pretty open lately as we've been fixing the road, and I am so grateful that the roads are being fixed. And I've heard very few people complain about the roads being fixed because there was so much complaint about the roads to start with. So when people complain, I say, don't even go there because they are being fixed and they'll be beautiful when they're done. I don't see a problem with Gateway, but again, that is not a main road that I access. I go on 2nd East and I go on First North, and that gets me to where I need to go.
Are you saying Gateway is a problem for you? The traffic on Gateway? I will confess, I'm not quite sure what Gateway is or where it is. But if it's a problem for you and others in your area, then that, I think it should be an issue that should be talked about by the city council, and we should find a solution. If there's a solution that works for the people in that area and the traffic. I haven't seen a lot of traffic on the routes that I travel, but if it's a concern to you, then maybe a concern to others in your area. And
I'm gonna make just one comment. Some people in Cobblestone, it has taken them 15 minutes to get out before at certain times of the day. So, and it's the only main road that goes to First East and to Second East from that roundabout.
I
Sorry.
would just say, my extra 30 seconds, I don't forget.
I'm sorry.
No, that traffic models have been done on flow, and we do have a transportation plan. Like Jeff mentioned, we build our master plans with expert knowledge, but a big piece of those master plans is community involvement. Every single master plan has had an opportunity for public comment. And so all of those things have been taken into consideration and growth models have been done. And there are traffic calming things projected for different areas of the city. And I know in that particular area in Gateway Drive coming down Spring Creek Parkway and also, is it? The name, I can visualize it. Triangle, Golf Course Road, there we go. There are plans for things to help with that traffic flow and help to get people on and off the road. So they are on the plan.
Anybody else like any additional time on that question? Okay, next question. What are you going to do about water? We've heard we do not have enough for what we are building. Yes, Ryan, you will lead out on this question.
I would have to look at the water master plan and understand what our options and constraints are. Being that I haven't been on city council yet, I'm not sure what's in the works, but I have heard, and you probably will hear right now, what the water master plan is.
We are currently in the middle of working on our culinary water master plan. Secondary water is a separate topic. So as far as water goes, we do have a 40-year water plan that is required by the state. And our 40-year water plan projects a doubling in population in Providence of up to 15,000 people. And with a population of 15,000 people, we do have adequate water to service those needs.
Like Janelle said, we do have a water plan. We're working on a culinary plan. I happen to be president of the Providence Blacksmith Fork Water Company, and we had enough water this year. We're blessed to have enough water. The farmers had enough, and the culinary user, or the residential users had enough water to use. But it's a limited resource, and we need to do something about it. We are looking at piping. It's much more efficient to pipe and get your water out of a pipe than it is to flood irrigate. And so we are looking at federal dollars that might be available to do to pipe and to pressurize. It's a long-term project. It's not an easy one. The city has to participate in it, but we are looking at how to become more efficient with our water. But rest assured that we have enough water coming out of the mountains as long as we get enough snow to fill the aquifers so that we can use that. But we're doing well.
I don't know enough about the master plan for water, so I'd have to look into that and see what's there now. I guess my main plan for water in the future of Providence would be prayer. Pray. lots of snow, snowpack, lots of moisture.
Everything everyone else said, you know, the statement in the question that we don't have enough water is false. We are working on it. We do have a new reservoir. We are planning for the future, and we do have water. We are so lucky that we live here and have the canyon feeding us at Spring Creek. We are so lucky because a lot of communities don't have that. But again, pray for moisture.
Anybody want additional time on the topic?
I just wanted to actually thank the residents. We put out a call in July. I actually wrote the newsletter article because of my council assignment with the irrigation companies to manage that water and use it wisely with the drought that we had, and that we continue to have and recover from. But we had a 40% reduction in residential use of water. We saved almost 4 million gallons of water in August because of voluntary reductions. And I think that is a prime example of a community coming together. When people choose to participate, engage, we can accomplish anything.
Anyone else? Okay, we will move to the final part of our candidate forum tonight. Each of you will get 2 minutes for a closing statement. Use that time how you will. And again, we'll give you some reminders on where we're at on time. And Janelle, we'll start with you.
I have really enjoyed this evening. I enjoy it when people come out and they engage and they bring their questions and we're able to respond to things that you're concerned about. And the last 2 years have taught me a lot, not just about the city, but about the people who live here in our city. And I can honestly say that it's been a privilege to work with the staff, with the other members of the council, with the members of the community, and to see what people are willing to give and contribute with their time and their talents to build a beautiful, safe place for us to live. And I hope to continue with the knowledge that I've gained, and just continue to build great things for Providence.
We're just going to go down the line. You know, I agree with Janelle. It's a privilege to work here. There isn't a reason that I had to run for mayor, but I said to myself, if not me, then who? I don't have an opponent. I wish I did. So when my term is over, you should dust off your running legs and consider being a part of the city and serve. Again, we have a fantastic city staff. We have some great things in store for the city of Providence, and we want you all to be involved. We want you to all be here. I want to leave you with a quote by Nora O'Donnell. Joel, you know who she is? She's on NBC, not NBC, CBS. And she said, information is key. In order to live a meaningful and successful life, the more information you have, the better decisions you can make. I hope you'll remember that as we move forward. The more information you have, the better decisions that you can make. And help us make good decisions by coming and being a part of the city. Come and give us your opinion, give us more information so that we can make informed decisions about what is going on. And I would just leave you with, how can I help?
So when I decided to run for city council, I was told by many that there's a huge learning curve and I'm going to have a lot to learn, and I believe in that. I'll have a lot to learn from the city council members and mayor and those who have experience. But I also just believe there's a lot that I'm going to have to learn about the people of Providence, what they truly want. I do have a strong passion for individual liberty, like it says in the newsletter. My mother tells me I was born on the 4th of July. I don't know if it's that or but I just strongly believe in we the people, and I just do not believe in encroachment of government in any kind or at any level. So,
First of all, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming and ask you to also attend our meetings once in a while. We do love to hear from you. I'm grateful that we have the opportunity to vote and that you can make a choice. I'm grateful that I've been able to work on the council with amazing council. Our city council right now is, I'm very proud to be a part of it. I think we have great candidates, and I'm glad we're all just a little bit different, and we each have different strengths. But I would love to serve you again. Please call me with questions, and I appreciate your vote.
I think, as everyone is saying here tonight, thank you for coming. Thank you for being engaged and interested in learning about us and what we stand for and how we'd like to see our city grow. I'm anxious to put my voice in there with you all and do the research and learning it will take to become a productive city council member. But you're worth it, and I'm worth it, and we're worth it. Thank you.
Well, that'll do it for our evening. How about we give our candidates a round of applause? Thanks again to everybody for showing up. We need to still have some time to meet with the candidates individually. Thanks again to Providence Elementary for hosting us.